officially call the meeting to order, and I guess we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll lead that. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We've got a pretty short agenda. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, so we need to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Emerson and a second by Mrs. Creek to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, Dr. Cleveland, we're going to hand it off to you to...
Sure. I'd like to introduce Ms. Kendra Clay, the Criminal Counsel. She's responsible for policies, and we've worked diligently with PPC, Certified Classified, and she's led that work. So, Ms. Clay.
Good evening. The one item in your agenda tonight is consideration of a policy change. This policy is one that we haven't had to look at in a few years because over the past, I actually was thinking about today how many years we've had AMI. I'm not really sure. But in the past few years, we have not used the inclement weather policy because when we had snow days, we used AMI days. Now that that is no longer an option for our district, when we looked at what our current policy said, we realized that there wasn't a lot of flexibility in our ability to make up days. The marked up version of the policy is in your agenda. You'll see that the I'll say old policy, I mean current policy. The current policy does not kick in as far as the order of makeup days until after 5 days are missed. As I'm sure you all know, we have now missed 5 days. So any days after, from this point on, under the current policy, we would go down in the order as listed. The proposed policy changes really give Dr. Cleveland, with input from PPC members as he's able to, some flexibility on when those days are made up. For instance, there are a couple of one professional development day, one flex day coming up in February that could potentially be used as makeup, but not under our current policy because unless we missed more days between now and then. We have had discussions with PPC. They have completed a survey which the majority approve of the changes. We have gotten some feedback. Dr. Smith and I Zoomed with a group of the PPC. It was an optional Zoom on Monday, after the ice day afternoon. Several wanted to get on and just ask some questions. There may be some additional feedback that comes about this policy. The message that I delivered is even if there are changes now to address our current kind of immediate situation that we're in, if additional changes need to be made for next year or going forward, we're always open to that. So changes to the policy now does not mean that it can never be changed again. It just gives some flexibility for Dr. Cleveland to maximize student instruction on the days that are available coming up. Before I turn it over to Lexi Woodward. She is our certified PPC president, doing a fantastic job leading that group. She's been a real pleasure to work with. She is here and may want to make some comments, but before I turn it over to her, do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Okay.
So what is the absolute status of AMI for
Sure.
Arkansas Public Schools?
So my understanding, the statute regarding AMI is still on the books. There was no change. LEARNS did not change that statute. What LEARNS did do is require that if districts access teacher salary funding, which you'll remember there was funding set aside for districts to move their salary schedule to a minimum of $50,000. In our case, we were already there, but we used that. It was exactly $2,000 a teacher. We used that money to then increase our starting salary up to 53 something that it is now. If your district accessed that money, then a requirement of accessing that money is that your district is in school for 178 days in person. Now, there is on the books an alternative calendar that allows for districts to count minutes. That is 1,068 minutes. My understanding of that is it's something that had to be declared back in the summer if you were going to use that. But the connection to LEARNS is that the money was predicated on in-person instruction for a certain number of either days or minutes. Does that answer it?
It does.
Okay.
You know, I think we made the right move back in the time period we had to make the decision for teacher salaries. So that's a lot of the reason why we're here today, is to give us now more flexibility since we don't have AMI days.
That's correct.
But it is still available,
It is still on the books, yes.
but you
You
have
want
to
to
take.
go to school without getting paid for it.
If you
Or
can,
not count.
if you can meet your salary obligations without the additional funding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
To my knowledge, there's not a district in the state that falls into that category, correct?
I don't know that. Dr. Cleveland, do you know? Did anyone not
down
access
the
that
money?
money?
I don't believe anyone turned it down, but I do know that there are districts that are on an alternative calendar,
Right.
and they could potentially use AMI opportunities that way because of the minutes, how they collect.
Because they have enough minutes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Lexi?
I apologize for my voice. During CTM, it just gave out completely. Just to kind of add a little bit more context to what Ms. Clay said, the reason that we even began really pushing this policy, or not even pushing, but considering this policy change was based on a survey that was sent district-wide. And the results were, it was over 2,000 responses. 74% were certified responses. 26% were classified, so there was feedback from different levels of employment. Thank you so much. And based on that survey, it was asking, you know, as far as people working in the buildings, in the schools, these days we have coming up in February, how would we like to use them? 88% of responders said that February 2nd, which is next week, they would prefer it to be utilized as an instructional day. And the February 19th, which is the flex day, was still majority. It was a little different, but 68% of voters, and I've left that completely open to this day to try to get as many people who want to have a say in that as possible. And so based on that, when then reviewing the policy and realizing we can't do anything with either of these days that the majority of the district is saying they want to use for instruction, that created and opened the door to, okay, let's see if we can adjust this policy so that we can adjust the calendar to not only meet the student needs, but what the people are saying would be best for them. And again, the PPC vote was after encouraging and having conversations of people to get their staff and faculty responses regarding the policy, so that the proposed policy was shared with both certified and classified PPC. And out of the 40 votes collected, 93% voted to go ahead and approve those changes. So with that in mind, I just wanted to give a little context to people, not only like the representatives on PPC, but also district. People have voted in support of changing this policy so that we can change those days on the calendar as well. Do you guys have any questions for me?
We appreciate you
Yeah.
working on this at kind of a last
course.
minute type of a thing to get it
No, of
back.
course.
Because like you said, it's next week is
Yes.
when one of these days is. So
Yes.
that's why we had to rush around and get this done. So thank you for the hard work.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for the water.
I don't know. Do we have any more discussion about the changing of the policy? Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Dr. Cleveland, anything else you want to add?
Well, I just appreciate our teachers and our classified staff for seeing the need to put students' needs ahead of sometimes their own. And I'm very thankful. I think that's the culture of our district, is to put students' needs first, so.
So the items that were lined out here, that was all basis of feedback that you got? So when you get to the adjustment section of this policy in 2B,
Yeah, so the markup was initially created by our team. The things that were added as a result of feedback would be the superintendent consulting with PPC about the order of days. For example, on the Saturdays, the reason we took out the second Saturday in March was just in the rare instance that we get in a position of winter weather into March, which happens sometimes. Again, just not getting in the best position that we could be to not be coming back to you and saying, well, now we need to change it this way. Does that answer? Okay.
So now you can use any Saturday in March, not just the second Saturday.
Any Saturday. And we have gotten feedback that Saturdays would probably not be the best choice. You know, we're looking at the best of the worst choices, really. I mean, nobody wants to come to school in June. Nobody wants to come to school spring break Saturdays. And we understand the loss of instruction and value that comes along with that. But we're in a position where we've got to have 178 days of in-person instruction. So just some flexibility in being able to fill those days.
we've taken out spring break as an option.
That's correct. Yes, that was important.
That's totally my fault,
Yeah.
too. And the reason why I thought through that was because I know that a lot of our folks travel, and a lot of our teachers don't travel, and I was worried, I don't want to punish, and especially if we can use Saturdays, things like that. And so I don't know how to find subs and drivers, and so that was just one of those things, Mr. Owenby. So it is on the.
Well, I only look at
as
it
an
from this
option for
perspective.
Leave it as an option, and then if the PPC doesn't want to
Well,
use it,
Yeah,
Let's
we
look at it
could.
from the perspective that it's been one time in the last 15 years, 20 years that we've done that.
That's right.
I mean, kind of a last resort. I don't know that I would remove it.
Okay. That's
I don't-
definitely
I'm not in
something.
favor of it.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not in favor of it either, but if
It's
we
been
use
in- it's been
15
there.
days and that's our best option, like we're trying to increase flexibility and now we've removed it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
To leave it there with the goal of, you know, that
That's
all the
the last.
options are on the table there. So I can make that change
Only from.
as
We
I'm
don't
standing
want you to
here.
have this call, all wait on me to show up again.
Yeah, only talking
Yeah, right.
about just from a flexibility standpoint.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. And that is some of the feedback that we have heard. Not people that were necessarily opposed to the change, but just the opinion that let's leave spring break in there. You know, some have said, I'd rather use spring break, 2 days of spring break than a Saturday. So I think it makes a lot of sense to leave that.
Okay. So if we take a motion now, it would be with that change included, okay.
Mm-hmm.
B2C.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there any other suggestions or questions or comments, or? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Quick reaction in the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I appreciate the PPC and all of you guys.
Yes, they've been great to work with. And I mean, there was over half of the committee, I think, on that Zoom on their snow day. So that speaks really highly of their commitment to this district and their craft.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the policy change to the academic school calendar for lost instruction days with the change that we talked about in B2C to reinstate that as an option.
Okay. Second. All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Creek and a second by Mr. Emerson to approve the changes to our bad weather policy.
Lost instruction.
Lost instruction, excuse me. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of that, please say aye.
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 You what? No. Anybody opposed? Okay. Is there any other business that we need to discuss? If not, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, board, for being here tonight. I know it's hard to end your schedule.
I'm really sorry for making y'all wait on me.
Totally fine. I know you're working. I've heard arguments both ways.
It's unanimous.
I mean, nobody can say anything, I was.
Yeah.
So I should have asked this when you asked me.